Imagine a cold winter morning in Russia. Ivan is just working in his office. He's a businessman, he's a salesman of sorts. He's a reseller, in fact. He buys products and he sells them. Actually, he sells intellectual property. Stuff he can copy, stuff you can copy legally, stuff you can steal and duplicate. And he notices that Vlad has turned from his customer into his competitor. Vlad has copied his product and is now selling it for half the price. So that's how the story starts. We can talk about collection 1 leaks. They've also been called 10 billion leaks because apparently there are 10 billion records. Well, spoiler alert, there are not. But in any case, let's start by taking a look at how passwords get leaked. From how I've seen you, the audience interacting with the previous speakers, I see that you're actually quite a well-versed audience in IT. So maybe you know this fund already, maybe you don't. So there's a user, right? And maybe you, maybe your colleague, maybe your mom or your dad, right? Some people who are not so well-versed in IT. And there are websites, and users tend to register on those websites, right? They create accounts, they create profiles, they set up a password, right? Maybe it's one website, maybe it's a couple websites. We also have hackers who tend to hack these websites, and this is the most likely scenario of how user passwords get stolen en masse. And if you look at the average password being stolen. So it's actually not true that hackers hack your smart devices, that they hack your home computer, and that is how they extract the bulk of the passwords. The bulk of the passwords actually come from websites being hacked, and the websites get hacked a lot. Some users tend to reuse their passwords, right? This, let's call him Joe here on your left. He has registered into websites with the same password. Hacker has only hacked one of those websites where the user registered. And now they have the password and the email address, which is the identifier used these days, mostly, for both the sites, just by hacking the one. Right, what happens next, right? So hackers, some either skilled individuals or just some very lucky individuals who tend to be in the right place at the right time and hack the right system. Sometimes it does take skill, sometimes it's just pure luck and having the just leaked 0 day that you can use. What happens then? What do these hackers do with the data that they have? Well, unless it's an APT campaign or governmental run campaign, these hackers don't usually hold on to that for long. They don't have a lot of use for that. Actually, the criminal world in computing is quite well structured. It is an enterprise. It is a system of enterprises, as I tried to illustrate by my story in the beginning. And what happens is these hackers sell the data to data brokers or data hoarders. There are 2 types of those. And money begins to be involved in this stage, and it's of course in the opposite direction of the line, right? So what do the data brokers do? They resell it, right? We have the dark web. So basically, I'm not talking about these gray forums that are available quite easily to hackers and researchers alike, but I'm talking about the dark web where only trusted individuals interoperate. Not to say that there aren't some researchers or government agencies in there. And on the dark web, then the sale happens, right? We have multiple buyers. They just pay a fraction of the price that the reseller paid, but they have many clients, so they make a lot of money, right? So that's how it happens. Well, sometimes it happens that some of the buyers aren't that honest, right? They're criminals after all, most of them. So they go back to the market with a cheaper price on that. And sometimes it happens that some of them, for some reason, decide just to open it up and go to normal internet, go to the traditional web. Maybe not so available as Collection One is. Right? Everyone can download the Collection One list of passwords right now. I'm not sure about the legality of that in the UK, but everyone can do that easily. Mostly it's not that open. It's in those semi-closed forums, but you can still get them when they get published. So that's basically the timeline of how password leaks happen, from users selecting the password to passwords getting leaked. Now I want to talk about the specific case and what happened in the specific case right here with Collection One. So this here is a profile of an individual named Corpse on one of these not dark web forums. As you can see, the profile has been banned. Already at this point, he touts himself ethical hacker and coder. That's the guy who was the hoarder for Collection One and some other collections. That's the original hacker who collected these databases. He probably didn't hack any of them, or at least most of them, but he was the original collector, right? And you can actually see from your right here that he was banned on the 30th of January, and he only registered on the 6th of January, also 2019, by the way. So what happened? This is what happened. He basically created a post of his own stuff on this semi-closed forum saying, here are my collections, check them out. You can get them from here, right? Then we also have this. This is by a different guy who goes by the title of Samix. There was a similar offering by a guy named Clorox, but Samix was this more recognized one. You can see that the guy offers, you can't really see the price here. It's $45 for lifetime access with free updates. For different combinations of usernames and passwords, it even says here that the type is email : password, which is totally not true. I spent many hours trying to format most of these files to this alleged format, back to this format, and I still didn't succeed fully. But I got like 95% of the data reformatted correctly. So that's just a nice advertisement. We see some sizes here, 90 gigabytes for Collection 1, half terabyte for Collection 2, and so on. Right? So, Sanix is the guy who stole from this other criminal, Corpse, the collections. So he bought the collections and he was reselling them. The original creator was the one that was doing weekly updates, and of course that was cut off. So the original creator noticed that promptly. We are talking, let me give you a timeline here. So Collection 1 started existing allegedly at the second half of 2017. And now we're in January 2019, where Corpse notices this shit happening. And what he does is simple. He just posts the collections on this semi-closed forum saying, there is a guy that's been stealing my stuff and making money off me, so here you go, here's my stuff for free. That's where you can have it. And it was done mid-January, right? So the latest data that we have in Collection 1 and in other collections here is actually beginning of this year, which is quite cool. For a researcher, we can look at some trends there. We can look at how passwords change, right? What's the most common password in 2018? Anyone knows? Password, that was 2012.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I was going to say password.
Yeah, password was 2012, around 2012. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in 2018. So we'll see what we have in the beginning of 2019 at the beginning of the at the end of the presentation here. And then we have other guys reposting stuff. So this guy here actually put everything in one large file, all the collections where you can download them. So, of course, I decided to do some research. I downloaded everything there, and I took a look at what we have there. So I downloaded all all the offerings, right, around around a terabyte of compressed data, a bit more even. So this is what we have inside, right? So we have lots of text files, but we also have some archives, which means there may be even more text files inside, right? For ASCII text, we may see up to around 50% compression ratio, right? But one thing is that you should keep in mind through this presentation and in the future when other people or media are going to talk about these leaks that happened at the beginning of 2019 is this. Much of the stuff in there is duplicates, right? So the red part here in this graph are files that already are in the gray part, right? So that's by file count. So we have 24% duplicate files just downloading all that from the internet. Okay, let's extract them, right? Let's take a look what happens when we extract. And I only did one level extraction because after doing that, I mean, even though we still have some compressed files, it's not a lot. Not a lot of them. So we have mostly text, almost 95% text, and we have some other formats as well. Here, the situation is even worse. We have around 30% or 1/3 duplicate files. So again, the database is not clean at all. As I said already, it's not actually. It is mostly in user colon password format, but not fully, and it's a lot of duplicates in there. So size-wise, let's take a look at how much data we have there. So we have collection 1, which is compressed to 37 gigabytes as it's being distributed. We have collection 2 to 5 and so-called anti-public database, which is 365 gigs. Then we have 12 billion special file, which actually contains 12 billion records, and it's 90 gigabytes compressed, and it's quite a clean one. Just one large file. Then we have a leak called BigDB, around 600 gigs. So all these leaks, they happened beginning of this year, right? We started with collection 1, and immediately, I think that was next day or the day after that I noticed that we have all these other data sources available. So total, that's around 1 terabyte of data. But when we do the extraction, just the first level extraction, what we get is additional terabyte of data. So we're looking here at 2 terabytes of usernames, passwords, some credit card numbers, some names, surnames, just a bit of addresses, recovery questions, which is quite a cool stuff to research. Actually, I've never researched password recovery questions before. It actually makes you think how people think. So how do you process such large amounts of data? Many scholars today look at different cool big data tools that do near disk speeds, right? What's the right solution? As a person who uses open source a lot, the right solution is, of course, GNU, Kirils, and similar tools, which don't do near disk speed, they do disk speed. That's what they do. Processing text files is super easy and super fast, right? So the tools I use for this research is Find, of course, because the structure of the files was so complicated. I just wrote a small script where I specified some part of the path and it finds it for me. Cat grep. We see anyone use grep here? Grep? No? Nice. Sed, of course, and the progress. Anyone use progress? No. One. Okay. I knew that. So that's good that you're have used Linux or are Linux users, so you know grep, right? Progress is this great, relatively new tool in GNU toolset, and this is what it does. So when you launch it, it looks for processes that have file descriptors open, looks at the files, and gives you progress of reading or writing those files, which means you don't have to wait without knowing how long you have to wait. It's really cool. You have like your stuff running, and in another terminal you run progress, and you see this. So that's quite a cool tool when you limit it on time. Okay, but what I'm looking at here today for this presentation is just collection 1, just this 90 gigabytes uncompressed data, not the terabytes, because processing that is still ongoing. It's the server is still working on that. In collection 1, in the media, we can see different numbers. These are numbers that I got, and they will fluctuate by 1,000, maybe more, depending on how clean the data is, or how clean you make the data, right? So what I got is 2.8 billion records inside all the files in collection 1. 2.8 separate records of mostly users and their passwords. Speaking of users, what I got is around 900 million different unique usernames. So the previous number was total records, including non-unique. Splitting by usernames, what I have is around 900 million usernames and around 20 million different passwords. Now, the fun part. Let's actually analyze that. Let's start with the usernames, which are mostly, of course, these days, email addresses. Not 100%, and even in collection 1, we see usernames that are actual usernames. But luckily for us, there's also a field for email address when the database is leaked fully. And analyzing email addresses by TLD, this is the picture that we get. And I did that in order to understand what is the source of the leaks, who collected it, and why. What we can see is that, of course, most records are collected for .com, which is obvious. .com is the most popular domain, the first TLD that we've had. And the second place is Russia, right? So apparently it's Russian hackers hacking Russians. So that's the conclusion that I came to, right? On the third class, we have 2 TLDs, which are those, .net and .uk, which is interesting. I mean, I didn't expect that. I hadn't finished this picture when applying to this conference, so that's not why I came. But we do see quite a lot. We also see France and Germany in the top. So basically, it looks like they're mostly concentrating in Europe, but not just Europe. Okay, let's split it a bit more rough. Let's split it by domains. Splitting by domains, we see the popular email providers, Yahoo, Gmail, Hotmail. Then we see Mail.ru, which is indicative, of course, of Russia being one of the main targets here. For this presentation here in UK, I also did some slides just looking at UK data. So for UK email addresses, this is what we see. We see Hotmail, Yahoo Live, Tiscali, Blue Yonder, and Gmail, and some others, right? So that's for UK. Now, one interesting thing to look at in leaks and in analyzing raw data is always governmental data. And of course, I did a split by governmental addresses. And I wanted to see what governmental emails, what governmental domains are we seeing. And these are the most popular domains that belong to the government, right? We see some Australian ones. The first 2 are educational ones, which means those are probably just governments that have decided not to use .edu and instead use .gov for educational reasons, which means that students and pupils get those domains, which is, and then they end up on lists like that, which is understandable. But we do see some interesting ones. Nest.gov, I think, was already mentioned in the press in regards to this leak. We have DHS, of course, for the US. And one not making top 10 here, top 11 is actually IRS, the Internal Revenue Service of the United States of America. Now, zooming a bit back out, which governments are the least unsafe in this regard? Which governments do not train cyber hygiene properly to their employees and allow or do not punish people from using their governmental email addresses or registered for random sites? Well, here we are. The first one is US, of course. They get .gov because they are the ones who have the internet, kind of. Then we have UK. Then we have Austria, Brazil, and so on. Again, slide specifically for UK, just looking at gov.uk domains. So the whole 360 degrees is all .gov.uk in collection one leak. You probably know better than I what these are, but we have Kent, DWP, Essex, Cornwall, and so on. And we have so the distribution here is quite normalized. So we actually see that a lot of them are with the same weight that we don't see here in top 10. So top UK passwords, which is keeping in mind the collection one leak happened allegedly somewhere around 2017. The collecting of the collection, which is the top password for the UK. What do you think? Yeah.
Liverpool 123.
What?
Liverpool 123.
Liverpool 123. That is relatively good password because the top password is password, but with a capital letter P. So it's safer than just using the classical password. It's just a bit. And 0.25% is the prevalence of this password in the UK passwords, right? Passwords used by account holders whose email ends in .uk. We also have a bunch of other passwords, of course, the classical 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we have Liverpool. Yeah, it's a city, right? Or what?
It's a football team.
Football team. Right. So that's why we have Liverpool. And 10th position, Charlie, also not seen in the global top 10. Now, recovery questions is the interesting part, as I already mentioned. So, what do people actually type in their recovery questions? I remember when I created my accounts, they back when I did create accounts, because I had most of my accounts for 10 years, they offered you a fixed list of questions. You couldn't type your own, and those questions were so dumb, but I never knew what to answer. So I always typed none. Don't hack my accounts. But these days, many sites allow you, which is good, to specify your own question. So an extract of some Russian guys or girls registering their accounts and selecting their recovery questions and answers. So the first recovery question: who are you? That's what they typed, right, as their recovery question. And the answer they selected is, it's me. Then we have Nil, it's a guy's name. And the answer they selected, of course, is yes. We also have, who am I? And obviously the answer is Kamil, also a guy's name. And a bunch of these actually, apparently it's a low security site because this is one file. I pulled this from a specific password dump. It was a bit larger than just passwords, as you imagine. So it's part of a low security site because it allows you to do this. And most users did that. They just typed in the same thing for the question and the answer. So now, coming to the conclusion of this short talk, of course, we have to talk about what to do in the future to avoid these things. Leaks are going to happen. Sites are not perfect. 0 days happen. Just this year, we already had a bunch of 0 days. Pound just finished. We've seen 0 days in browsers, we've seen 0 days in cars. It's gonna continue happening. So what we can do as users, easy. First point, of course, do not reuse your password. Do not reuse similar passwords to the ones that you use somewhere else. Right? Do not reuse the passwords that you used in 2017. Obviously, choose strong passwords. And at least in Latvia, which is where I come from, our government cert is not doing a very good job of teaching people what strong password is. So what they do, they just tell you should mutate some words. So you take dictionary word, you change some letters to some symbols and so on, which is of course a dumb idea. The other extreme that I've seen people teaching other people is that you should just mash your keyboard and that's your password. We actually had a router company that makes routers from Latvia that did that for their key. They hard-coded key that they use for encrypting stuff. Some guy just mashed a password. I reversed their firmware, got out that, mapped it on the keyboard. You can see 2 hands going down on the keyboard when you do a heat map of that string. and that's how they encrypt all the passwords. Anyway, that's also a bad idea, but not just because of mashing, because it's hard to remember, and if it's short, it's relatively easy to crack. Best strong password is a passphrase, meaning it's a sentence. It's long and it's easy to remember. So that's a strong password. But of course, these days we have password managers. If you are the kind of person that's inclined to trust machines a bit more than me, password managers are a great tool. You generate long, random string of characters, and it works, and it's super secure. But I think among us we have not just users, we also have developers who are potential developers. So I want to talk to you. I want to talk about a thing that some of you, I'm sure, are aware of, but some of you maybe are not, and that is salting, of course. When creating a system, you have to salt your passwords, and this is what it means, right? In the database, you hash your password, right? That's generally adopts a one-way function, so you can't get back to the original one, but when the user enters the password, system can check if it's the right password or not. If different users will choose the same password, the hash will be the same, as you see on the left. Instead, for each user, and professionally, I sometimes, quite often do security audits, including white box audits. And I've seen a bunch of systems where salt is hard-coded to the system. So don't do that. Every time a user sets a password, create a new random salt, as seen in the blue part here on your right, and then use that to hash the password. And the hash will be different, which means it will be harder for an attacker who gets your database to mass crack your user passwords. So, in conclusion, I want to emphasize once again what's been done a bit in the media, but I think not enough. The leaks that happened beginning of the year, including Collection 1 and the other leaks, most of them are old. We see, and I see, updates up to January 2019, but analyzing them, I'm not so sure that they are too real. I mean, that the date matches what that is. Maybe that's just some criminals doing business criminal style and, generating random password user lists and sending out these updates. That's what I think. But the bulk of that is quite old. I'm not talking super old, not MySpace times, but it's a couple years old. So if you do proper cyber hygiene and you change your passwords from time to time, you should be okay. So, finally, I did analyze Collection 1 for the presentation, but I also have started to analyze the whole 2 terabytes of data. And I looked at passwords from January 2019. And the top password from January 2019 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're back there, which is kind of unbelievable, I think. But yeah, there we have it. From the around 10 million passwords that were marked as update of January 2019, 0.32% were using this password. So there you have it. That's me. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer. Yeah.
How long are all the passwords that got in that massive 2 terabytes? How long would it take to get all of them processed?
Well, that depends on your processing power. This is not my research is not a paid gig, so I'm not interested in spending $20 per hour for Amazon GPU servers. So for me, I'm looking at I think probably end of March, beginning of April when everything's done. So with my resources, it's less than a month. But once again, it not only depends on the money you want to invest, it also depends on the kind of research you want to do. If you just want to know the top password, with my resources, I think you can do that in 1 day easily. Well, maybe 2 days on the 2 terabytes of data. Yeah, but do you use GNU? Do you use open source tools, stream tools? Those are super fast. I mean, those are disk speed. It doesn't matter if it's HDD or SSD. It runs super fast. Okay. Thank you very much for having me.